Good afternoon, and welcome to our inaugural celebration of Black History Month, hosted by the judiciary as well in conjunction with the Fort Bend County Attorney's Office, County Judge's Office. Before we get started, I would like us to just pause for a few seconds just to kind of take in this moment, our moment of silence for about 10 seconds, and reflect as you so desire. Thank you. We all know that African American history is indeed American history. But every year in February, we pause to acknowledge the contributions and accomplishments of African Americans in our country. We all know about our more popular figures who we hear about every year: Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Mae Jemison, Oprah Winfrey. You know, our more popular figures, our sports figures, our entertainers. But we know that we have many unsung heroes in our community. We have those ones who we refer to as our hidden figures among us, our trailblazers, who make contributions to our community every day. But of course, they don't always get the same acknowledgement because it's easier to focus on our more famous figures. Today, we wanted you all to join us as we celebrate some of the individuals who've made contributions to the Fort Bend County Courthouse over the decades. Some of them you may know, some of them you may not, but for today, we are going to ask you to go on this journey with us as we introduce you to some of those figures. Of course, we're doing this over lunch, so we could not include everyone. We know that there are many individuals who have contributed to the courthouse, but I please want you to know that some of these individuals to my right, you may not know them, but you will hear their compelling stories and what they've contributed to our courthouse, and you'll see why they are being highlighted today. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. And at this time, I'm going to bring up Judge Watson, who will acknowledge our elected officials and have some additional remarks for us. Hope you enjoy our program and stay with us for lunch at the conclusion of the program. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm going to try to get through the acknowledgement of elected officials very easily by asking first if all of the elected officials here will please stand up. Please remain standing, and I will introduce you and welcome you again to the program. My name is Tina Watson. I am the presiding judge of County Court at Law Number 5, and we have the county clerk, Ms. Laura Richards, here. And I appreciate all the applause, but maybe we'll hold it until we're done so we can get through this. We have the Fort Bend Democratic Party chairwoman, Ms. Cynthia Ginyard. We have Commissioner of Precinct 4, Mr. Dexter McCoy. We have District Judge of, I'm not going to say the courts, but I think I know anyway, of the 240th District Court, Mr. Surendra Patel. We have District Judge, Mr. Chad Bridges. We have County Court at Law Judge, Tyra McCollum. We have District Judge, Kali Morgan. We have District Judge, Janet Heppert. We have District Judge, Mr. Stephen Rogers. And we have, of course, I'm sorry, I apologize, District Judge Monica Raleigh, who was hidden a little bit. That's okay. County Court at Law Judge Julie Matthew. The County Attorney, Ms. Bridget Smith Lawson. We have District Judge Tamika Carter. We have the District Clerk, Ms. Beverly Walker. And we have County Court at Law Judge Tony Wallace. This is not easy ever. Of course we have. And we are protected by the Sheriff of Fort Bend County, Eric Fagan. Have I missed anybody? That's never easy. Thank you so much, and thank you for your patience. Why we celebrate? We celebrate to commemorate, to recall, remember, and respect the hard work of those who came before us. We celebrate because they mattered. Their lives and what they endured mattered. The stories you will hear today are real. Many of them were told through hesitation and in some cases pain. I had to talk to some folks 2 and 3 times because some things we choose to forget so that we can cope, so that we can keep moving forward. It is so important that we live our lives in truth, however ugly it may be. History needs to be told. So it is my prayer that after this program ends, we all have a better understanding about Fort Bend County's history and those who laid the foundation for the progress we experience today. Now we will have a musical selection, Lift Every Voice and Sing, and this is going to be sung by Gregory Saxman Daniels Sr. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you playing the saxophone or singing or both?
Saxophone.
The saxophone. Not singing, I apologize. We have a selection from Gregory Little Saxman Daniels II, and he will give his rendition. That was awesome, and that's what it's all about, our young people. And that's a great segue into our next performance, and that is a poem by Miss Bria Lawson. Please welcome her. Wherever you come, wherever you come.
Hello, everybody. Today, I will be reciting New Day's lyric. May this be the day we come together, Worn, we come to mend. Withered, we come to weather. Torn, we come to tend. Battered, we come to better. Tethered by this year of yearning, we are learning that though we weren't ready for this, we have been readied by it. We steadily vow that no matter how we are weighed down, we must always pave a way forward. This hope is our door, our portal, even if we never go back to normal. Someday we can venture beyond it to leave the known and take the first steps. So let us not return to what was normal, but reach toward what is next. What was cursed, we will cure. What was plagued, we will prove pure. Where we tend to argue, we will try to agree. Those fortunes we forswore, now the future we foresee. Where we weren't aware, we're now awake. Those moments we missed are now these moments we make. The moments we meet and our hearts once all together beaten, now all together beat. Come, look up with kindness yet, for even solace can be sourced from sorrow. We remember not just for the sake of yesterday, but to take on tomorrow. We heed this old spirit in a new day's lyric. In our hearts, we hear it. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne. Be bold, sang time this year. Be bold, sang time. For when you honor yesterday, tomorrow you will find. Know what we fought need not be forgotten nor for none. It defines us, binds us as one. Come over, join this day, just begun. For wherever we come together, we will forever overcome.
All right. Okay. Now for the highlight of our program, the history. I want to take some of you back to 1977, and I know that was probably before some of you were born. It was disco fever. R&B, the song Car Wash was one of the hits. Lionel Richie was singing Easy Like Sunday Morning, and Roots aired for the first time on TV as a series. President of the United States was Jimmy Carter. And in Fort Bend County, the county had a population of 96,000 people. That's less than 100,000. There was only one county court at law, and there was one worker who was a lead clerk in 1977 to 1987. When she arrived on her job in 1977 and sat at her desk to clear it out for her own belongings, she reached, and at the bottom of her desk was a sign that said, "Whites Only." She took that sign home, and it never returned back. She can recall when elections were hand counted by ballot. They counted each ballot and stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning until the results were final. She was the first probate auditor of any nationality, any race, in Fort Bend County. And yes, of course, the first African-American probate auditor. Rita Miller gave Fort Bend County nearly 4 decades of her life. I present to you Rita Miller.
I was born in Galveston, Texas. And was raised in Thompson, Texas. I have lived in Fort Bend County my entire life. I graduated from Lamar Consolidated High School in 1971. My family came to Thompson's from North Carolina by train in the late 1890s. They purchased and farmed land, married and raised their families here in Fort Bend County. I worked in the county clerk's office from 1977 to 1987 as lead criminal clerk. In 1988, I was hired by the county court at law number 1 and 2, judges for the newly created position of probate auditor. I remained there until I retired in 2012. My fondest memories of working in Fort Bend County are working for 4 different judges with 4 different personalities and having worked in 6 Fort Bend County buildings. During my time working for Fort Bend County, I came in contact with elderly members of the Black community who did not have birth certificates, or they were looking for real property deeds or information regarding wills and guardianships. I was able to help them by providing them with instructions on how to obtain these documents.
I think the picture has to be.
She just told me her starter works with my son.
Okay, we're going down the timeline of Fort Bend County, and 1 year later, 1978, imagine the county had only one district court, the 240th District Court. Robin Miller McAfee was employed by the district clerk in 1978. County still had a population of less than 100,000 at that time. And the county just started separating bathrooms from African American or blacks and whites. Attorneys did not want to file papers when Robin Miller sat in the courtroom as a clerk next to Judge Dickerson. But Judge Dickerson told the attorneys, if you don't want to deal with her, you're not going to deal with me. When she was hired in Fort Bend County, they had to take a physical medical examination. At that time, they told her she could not enter the doctor's office from the front door. She must go to the back door. Robin Miller McAfee refused. Robin Miller McAfee gave Fort Bend County, through the district clerk's office, the district attorney's office, and the juvenile probation department, nearly 4 decades of her life. I present to you Robin Miller McAfee. Okay.
Her bio reads, I was born in East Bernard, Texas, and graduated from the Lamar Consolidated High School in 1976. I went to work for Fort Bend County in 1978 for Zora Del Cole as a deputy clerk. Under her leadership, I was assigned to be clerk for the 240th District Court under Judge Dickerson. Something really special for a woman of color during that changing time, as we know. Her next move was to the district attorney's office under Bill Meetson as a secretary handling duties for the 240th court. Her last move was to the juvenile probation department as a secretary to the chief juvenile probation officer, Mary Phillips, and she retired as the finance director for a total of 37 years working in Fort Bend County. She said when she had to go into court and sit up by Judge Dickerson for the first time, Zora Del told her to walk in with her head held high. Then she gave her a hug and told her to go do her job. Being able to see more and more people of color being hired and elected to leadership positions in the county is what makes her proud.
All right, now we're going into the 1980s. And the population of Fort Bend County is now 157,000. The president is Ronald Reagan. And one of his biggest policies during this time was a war on drugs. With that also brought militarization of the police force in many neighborhoods. Popular movies was Do the Right Thing, and rap music started in the streets and in the neighborhoods, such as Public Enemy, and big hair was the style. Madonna was popular, the music was hot, and everybody had a sense of, I won't say radicalism, but change in what was happening. During this time, Linda Means Coleman was hired as the first African American by the Fort Bend Adult Probation Department. The years were 1982 to 1992, and there were only 10 probation officers. Linda Means Coleman.
Linda Means Coleman was born and raised in Utah, Alabama, and relocated to the Houston, Texas area some 38 years ago. Ms. Coleman achieved her undergraduate degree from Alabama A&M University, Master's of Education from Prairie View A&M University, and PhD from Cornerstone University. She worked for Fort Bend County from 1982 to 1992 as an adult probation officer. She has over 40 years of experience working with children and families as a licensed social worker and licensed chemical dependency counselor. She is the founder of the NAACP Missouri City and Vicinity branch and currently holds the post of president. She is a proud Zeta Phi Beta sorority, proud member of Zeta Phi Beta sorority. Additionally, her life is dedicated to the service of Christ, humanity, social justice, and civil rights.
Okay. And at this time, I know we have some other honorees that have come a little later. If they can please make their way over to this section where the honorees are, that would be great. And that would be good. All right. Next, keeping in the 80s. 80s, we start with some real firsts in Fort Bend County. We have the first African-American court reporter in the courthouse. Miss Sylvia Thompson was hired in 1983, and she still works today as a court reporter for the 328th District Court. Sylvia, Miss Sylvia Thompson.
Sylvia Thompson was the first African-American court reporter in Fort Bend County. She was born in Sugar Land, Texas, and graduated from Dulles High School. She started working in Fort Bend County in 1983 and continues to work for the county today. She has worked for 4 family court judges.
Still in the 80s, we have Eunice George White, also employed by the Adult Probation Department and also a dedicated worker for Fort Bend County for nearly 20 years. Eunice?
Eunice George White graduated from the University of Memphis with a Bachelor of Science degree in social work, then received a Master of Social Work from the University of Tennessee. Also, she completed additional hours in social work at the University of Houston main campus. Born in Tennessee, Eunice relocated to Texas in 1983 and began working in the criminal justice fields in Dallas, Harris, and Fort Bend counties. Eunice was employed by the Fort Bend County Adult Probation Department from 1986 to 2005. She was a senior officer and court liaison officer in Judge Lowry's County Court at Law No. 3. My fondest memories as an employee of Fort Bend County was writing a proposal for the community service project and creating a resource booklet to assist the probationers in locating resources to give them a second chance in life. As a Fort Bend County resident, I am a life member and former second vice president of the Missouri City NAACP and former member of the Rosenberry Chamber of Commerce.
All right. Still in the 80s, but getting to the end of the 80s, Fort Bend County hires the first African-American attorney employed by the Fort Bend County DA's office, which was then called the Fort Bend County DA's office Civil Division. From 1987 to 1999, Portia Olden Poindexter served this county and rose to the ranks of First Assistant County Attorney while she was here. Portia Olden Poindexter.
Her bio reads, "My ancestors on both sides of my family made their mark on Black history. The Ku Klux Klan forced my father's family from Mississippi 100 years ago for registering Black people to vote. My mother's ancestors escaped slavery by the way of the Underground Railroad from Ohio to Windsor, Ontario, Canada, before President Lincoln freed the slaves. I was born in Canada and grew up in Detroit, Michigan. After graduating from a Detroit high school, I went to one of the first HBCUs, Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. While at Fisk, I joined other students in nonviolent marches to integrate Nashville restaurants. Me and other Fisk students were arrested and put in jail several times before Nashville changed the segregation laws. Our leaders were the late John Lewis and Reverend Martin Luther King. I became a lawyer in 1977 after moving to Houston. Before I was hired as the first assistant Fort Bend County District Attorney in 1987, the local NAACP, the Missouri City and Vicinity branch of the NAACP, had pressured the county elected officials to hire Black lawyers. I was the first the county hired. Employees and citizens of the county encouraged the elected officials to integrate once again its workforce and to hire its first magistrate, Harold Kennedy. I am proud to be a part of the movement to get Black people elected to county-wide positions.
Still in the 80s, and still a first, in that we have Sherry Johnson, an official court reporter from 1987 to present. She worked as a county court at law court reporter, district court reporter, and still working today as a court reporter for Fort Bend County. Ms. Johnson.
My name is Sherry Johnson, and I was born and raised in Fort Bend County. In January of 1987, I became a certified shorthand reporter. I am the second African-American certified shorthand reporter in the history of Fort Bend County. In my 36-year career, I have had the honor to serve as official court reporter in Fort Bend County for a combined service of 22 years for County Court at Law Number 1, the Honorable Larry D. Wagenbach, the 387th District Court, the Honorable Robert J. Kern, and the County Court at Law Number 6, the Honorable Sherman Hatton, Jr. I currently serve as the official court reporter in County Court at Law Number 2, the Honorable Tyra Jones McCollum presiding.
All right. Rounding out the 80s, but saving some of the best for last, we have the first administrative assistant. It's African American. She was the first administrative secretary and the first African American court coordinator. We all know who she is. She just retired. Let's welcome back to this courthouse, Regina Green.
Regina Green was born in Illinois and raised in Killian, Fort Hood. Ms. Green received her associate's degree in the applied science of criminal justice and her Bachelor of Science in religious education and religious counseling. She was employed in Fort Bend County in 1989 to 1990 as an administrative secretary in the district attorney's office, the civil division, in 1990 to 2023 as a court coordinator for County Court at Law No. 1. Her fondest memories were having met and worked with so many amazing people. She says, "When I think of the attorneys, clerks, prosecutors, judges, and their staff members that have passed through my life over the past 33 years, it puts a smile on my face. Good days have truly outweighed the bad. I had an amazing journey and career with Fort Bend County." She was the first Black coordinator in Fort Bend County, first coordinator, Black or otherwise, in Fort Bend County to become a member of the Texas Association of Court Administration, the first coordinator in Fort Bend County to attend the professional development program through the Texas Association of Court Administration and to complete all 3 years, and the first coordinator in Fort Bend County to receive statewide recognition through the Texas Association of Court Administration 3 times and voted Member of the Year in 2018.
All right. All right. Has Deborah Glover Myers made it here yet? I don't see her. So we will come back. Hopefully she will be here and go forward. She's employed by the Fort Bend Juvenile Probation Department. I hadn't heard word. I know she's been here. I hope she's not ill. Let's go ahead and read Deborah's bio, please.
My name is Deborah Glover Myers. I was born in Houston, Texas. I attended Jesse H. Jones High School. I graduated from Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas, with a Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice. I also pledged Delta Sigma Theta sorority while at Lamar. I began working for Fort Bend County in 1989 at the Juvenile Probation Department. I started off as a detention officer where I worked for a year before becoming a juvenile probation officer. I worked as an intake probation officer for a short time before becoming a court officer. I was then promoted to a lead court officer in 1997 and a court supervisor in 1998. I became deputy chief in 2000 and then director of intake court services in 2007. I am currently still in the position of director of intake court. One of my fondest memories of working in Fort Bend County was seeing the first Black female assistant district county chief of juvenile of my time, now the judge of County Court at Law No. 5, Tina Watson. It was such an honor for me because I knew her from high school, and as well as she is my sorority sister. It was extra special for me because I felt like I was able to play a part of her journey, working with her as an assistant district attorney to a defense attorney and now as a judge. What an honor.
All right. And we will get the plaque to her. I hope she's okay. I hope she's well. But we've made it to the 1990s, y'all. And point of personal privilege, this is my time. All right, the county population has grown to 225,000. MTV videos are on TV and cable. Michael Jackson, punk rock, hip hop are all the big styles of the day. And I can tell you visually what Fort Bend County looked like because I was here. Coming to the courthouse, we called the Travis building the courthouse. We called what you call the historic courthouse, the old courthouse. So the courthouse was the Travis building then, and actually it was a new building then. The most popular way to get there was straight down Highway 90/South Main if you're coming from Houston. You could go Ransom Road off 59, but it was a winding road. Any given day, you drove down Highway 90. There was massive amount of prison land. And prisoners were farming that land. And my drive to work as an assistant district attorney consisted of mostly Black and brown prisoners farming the land off Highway 90, and there were the white wardens, overseers, supervisors on horses as they were working. I used to literally blink driving, saying to myself, wow, is this what slavery looked like? And I would continue to move forward and go to do my job. When I arrived at the courthouse, I realize now that it probably wasn't by happenstance, but there was a deputy, Deputy Robert Brown, Precinct 1. He was a tall black man with a big smile, and he greeted me almost every day walking into the Travis building. Understand, we all walked through the same doors. There were no metal detectors. The judges, prosecutors, we all walked through. He gave me words of encouragement. Went into the building as an assistant district attorney and found the people in the courthouse that were working. The people who were cleaning up were mostly African American. Miss Lily, who ran the deli, was African American. And I found my support with other people and workers who were working in that building. They were not lawyers, they were not judges, but they mattered. We ate at the Real Meal, which was a soul food restaurant. And everybody ate at the Real Meal, let me be clear. The judges ate at the Real Meal. And Miss Lily's Deli, which was on the second floor of the old courthouse, actually where Commissioner's Court meets now. That's where Miss Lily had her deli. Everybody ate and drank coffee and enjoyed what we could. It was an intimate time in the 90s. I soon discovered that all the black people lived across the tracks, and later learned that that was the way it was in a lot of places in Texas. We were across the tracks. And the area here in Richmond was known as Mud Alley. It is during that time and that pictorial that Fort Bend County hired Reginald Robinson. He is now the first African American director of Community Supervision and Corrections Department, and he was employed by the Adult Probation Department in 1990. Reginald Robinson.
Some of you may not know this, but we go to church together. Anyways, his bio reads, I am Reginald Robinson. I was born and raised in the small East Texas town of Jewett. I am one of 10 children who was raised by mother and grandparents after my father died when I was 12 years old. During my upbringing, I can't remember not having a job. I worked cutting yards, hauling hay, and raising animals during my years in school. I worked during the summer at our local high school through a program provided by the federal government. I was offered the opportunity to work as a janitor at the school because of the work ethic I demonstrated during the summer's program. As my graduating experience in the 1980s, no one was hiring. I was working as an assistant manager at a Huntsville restaurant during college, so I was blessed that Tinsley's Chicken continues to provide me with an income. Sam Houston State entered into an agreement with the Texas Department of Corrections, so I, along with many other graduates, became correctional officers. I began my employment in May 1984 at the Ferguson unit in Midway, Texas, as a prison guard. During my employment at the prison, I was promoted to corporal on a segregation cell block that housed the most dangerous gang members that were both young and hopeless. It was at that time that I knew that to make changes in the lives of these young men, change would have to occur prior to incarceration. I remained with the Texas Department of Corrections until October 1990, when I began my employment with Fort Bend County Adult Probation. I began as a probation officer in the misdemeanor unit and promoted to senior officer in the newly developed court unit. I was then promoted to the position of supervisor over all the probation officers in our department. In 1999, I was promoted to the position of assistant director of our department and remained in that position until December 2019, when I was named as interim director of the department. I was then promoted in June 2020 to the position of director. My fondest memories of working in Fort Bend County has to be the relationships that have been developed with my coworkers and other employees that see their job as essential for the citizens of Fort Bend County. I have witnessed the growth of Fort Bend occur during my 32 years of employment with our department. I have witnessed everyone in the county being given access to everything that Fort Bend County has to offer. I have witnessed the essential things needed for our families being made available not only in the upscale subdivisions, but they are now available in the area that was once considered undesirable. As the demographics of Fort Bend County continues to evolve into a true melting pot, it amazes me to witness what Fort Bend County is and what it was. During my first year of employment, it was discussed by an elected official to not honor Martin Luther King's birthday, but to make it a floating holiday for the employee's birthday. The commissioner's courtroom at the Jane Long building was filled to capacity by employees to demand that Dr. King's birthday remain a holiday. I stood in amazement during the election of 2018 when the votes were counted and the several elected official offices had changed. I was amazed to see the first African-American district attorney, district and county court at law judges, and an Asian county judge elected to positions in the county. During the changes that were being made, we saw the naming of the law library at the Justice Center being named for an African-American, along with a picture of the first Black sheriff being placed in the historic courthouse. Today, everyone is being celebrated in Fort Bend County. As we go forward during Black History Month, I can honestly say that changes have been made to ensure that everyone has a fair opportunity when they are involved with the probation department. We are here to assist the person in making a positive change in their life through programs and assistance and providing them with the knowledge that whatever it is doesn't have to be the end of their story.
Okay, I'm gonna take y'all slow through the 90s, because like I said, it's my time. And the 90s were important because 1991, we experienced the beatings of Rodney King. And that was probably the first time that there was a videotaping of a beating of someone that you can watch on TV that wasn't fake or fiction, but reality. And it happened by happenstance. A guy just happened to have his video camera on his patio recording. 1992 and 1993 were the trials of the officers in the Rodney King beating and the riots in Los Angeles. And in 1995 was the O.J. Simpson trial. It was during that time that 2 African-American prosecutors were hired, 1 male and 1 female. And we were frequently asked questions, why, if you're Black, you want to be a prosecutor? Because during that time, there was some bad press going on with the police officers as well as with the O.J. Simpson trial. My response was, as a prosecutor, you seek justice, and that's what I'm going to do. But being the first, it was not easy having those questions during that time. New discovery doing the history here. I thought Gordon White was the first criminal district attorney, but it turns out he may have been the second. Nevertheless, very important during this critical time. And so I present to you who I had in my tenure and time in the district attorney's office, Gordon M. White.
I was born in Wichita, Kansas, but I grew up in Los Angeles and went to college in Iowa at Drake University. I attended law school at the University of Houston Law Center and began my legal career at the Harris County District Attorney's Office. I worked in the Fort Bend County District Attorney's Office from 1991 to 1995, and then continued to practice primarily in Fort Bend County. My fondest memories are of the people I worked with to ensure equal treatment and access in the justice system. Particularly, I remember the work on a case of a young African-American boy shot and killed as he was leaving the scene of a shoplifting.
Thank you. So I won't say behind every good man is a good woman. I'll say next to, because the first African-American female criminal assistant district attorney was now hired and resided in Fort Bend County from 1991 to 1996. It's a timeline.
It's her, guys. It's her if you don't know that. Anyways, I was born and raised in Sunnyside, Houston, Texas. I graduated from Just H. Jones Vanguard High School and went on to graduate from college at Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, and Syracuse College of Law in Syracuse, New York. I started my early legal career as a prosecutor in Fort Bend DA's office in 1991. I was the first African-American female hired as a criminal prosecutor. During that time, there were only about 9 out of 10 assistant DAs, and we all socialized together outside of the office. We knew each other's spouses, kids, and visited each other's homes. During my time as assistant district attorney, the county instituted a drug policy for all of its employees. Back then, I was 27 years old and over 20 pounds lighter. I remember leaving court to go to the facility in Richmond to get drug tested, and the worker asked if I was the bus driver with the school district. When I explained I was an assistant district attorney, she looked really confused. I also remember talking on the phone and receiving racist comments from people who were not expecting to be talking to a black person. It was the early 90s, and some people still did not expect me to be a prosecutor in Fort Bend County. I am truly proud to serve Fort Bend County today as a judge of County Court at Law number 5. I can honestly say myself and the county have come a long way over 32 years.
Thank you. And by the way, I'm Tina Watson. I don't think I introduced myself. I'm not good at that. But the 90s were pivotal. We did a lot. It was a group of us, and we founded a black bar association called the Sojourner Truth Lawyers Association. And we met, and we were at Dora Olivo's office many times in evenings and at nights, bringing in the elected officials and letting them know we need representation in the courthouse besides the defendants and the victims. And yes, Dora Olivo was with us the whole way. And believe me, we could not do the things we did without other people. The 90s brought us what we asked for and what we worked for. And that was the first African-American associate judge. Appointed in 1999 to 2019, I present to you Harold Kennedy.
I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and was educated at Dartmouth College and Thurgood Marshall School of Law. I have no roots in Fort Bend. I worked from Fort Bend County from June 1999 until December 2019 as the first associate judge in Fort Bend County. I enjoyed working with my coworkers the most, watching the process of Fort Bend making progress to allow everyone to actively participate in all aspects of life. As a highly diversified county, we have come from an exclusive society to a much more inclusive one. One day, I went to the courthouse and it was closed, as was every other county building. I was confused and later found out that it was Confederate Heroes Day. After initial resistance to recognize Martin Luther King Day, Confederate Heroes Day was discontinued, and in its place, MLK Day was finally added to the county holiday schedule.
All right. So this is why we record history, because we all learn something. I have some folks I could definitely call on to help me with this timeline, and even though we were here and we all lived it, I still wanted to make sure. And the question was there any other first, again, that we could think of before 2015? Now, there can be some good and bad to that. You can say, well, you exhausted a lot of your first in the 80s and the 90s. But then also there could be some, I won't say bad, but there was really no movement for 16 years. And what myself and my resources, who are pretty reputable, very reputable actually, I don't think he will mind me saying, one reputable resource is the district attorney, Brian Middleton, who is at a funeral, by the way, and couldn't be here. He had spoken, a wife asked for him to speak at a funeral, and Brian, being the man he is, of course, is going to honor that wish. But I had other reputable resources, and they were like, no. So we're going to move this timeline all the way to 2015. While we move it to 2015, however, I don't want to discount the people who were toiling and working and doing their jobs. And although there were no firsts during this time, you had assistant district attorneys working, such as Tyra McCollum, now Judge McCollum. Other assistant district attorneys, Tiffany Hamilton, Brian Middleton as assistant district attorney, now the district attorney, Kabaru Smith, who is now a federal prosecutor, attorney Wilvin Carter, Lewis White, who is now Judge White, Demetrius Lopez, Amber Givens, who is now District Judge Amber Givens, Tony Jones, Talani Washington, O'Shea Spencer, Dacia Williams, Tanika Davis, Tony Wallace as an assistant district attorney, Ashley Earl, and Stacy Carr. Now, if I miss anybody, y'all blame DA Brian Middleton, because this is from him. Okay? As well as a host of people in the clerk's office, district clerk, county clerk, and so on. So, our next first, but definitely not our last, is the first African-American presiding county court at law judge appointed by a unanimous commissioners court, the County Court at Law number 5, Judge Tony Wallace. And let me say, for timeline purposes, the year is 2015. So from 1999 to 2015, we've moved. Go ahead.
I was born in Houston. We moved to Sugar Land when I was in the 3rd grade. I went to elementary school and middle school in Fort Bend ISD, and I graduated from Dulles High School in Fort Bend ISD in 1994, almost 30 years ago. I worked in the Fort Bend District Attorney's Office from 2011 to 2016. I was an assistant district attorney, also known as a prosecutor. In 2016, I was appointed by a unanimous vote to be the inaugural judge in County Court at Law number 5. I was the first African-American judge ever appointed to a county court in Fort Bend County. I love the people of Fort Bend County. Some of my dearest friends and best memories come from my years of working in the DA's office and in the court system. Black history in Fort Bend is woven into the fabric of this county. We have contributed to the growth, success, and longevity of Fort Bend. I am proud to have my name written in the history books and share this legacy of leadership.
Okay, I think it's timely to say thank you Logan Wallace, the son of Judge Tony Wallace, for reading today. And thank you, Bria Lawson, the daughter of the county attorney, Bridget Smith Lawson, for reading today. Y'all can go sit down. Okay, so I am tasked with where we are today. Well, I think it was purposeful we did the timeline up to the historic elections of 2018, 2020, and 2022. That's for y'all to do a whole nother program on. I'm done, okay? We are living the results of those elections today. As sheriff, district attorney, county attorney, judges, tax assessor collector, district clerk, commissioners, justices of the peace, and constables. As we continue on the historic journey of Fort Bend County's timeline, let's continue to grow as this county's population has grown to almost 1 million people. We are more ethnically and culturally diverse today. We are blessed with a unique opportunity in Fort Bend County to show the world how we can live and work together in harmony. We will now have closing remarks from our county judge, KP George.
I don't know how I'm going to close anything. I don't know what kind of closing remark I am going to follow with all this stuff you just saw. History, which is, I just want you to know that it is emotional for me to watch what I saw. And we talked from 1967. Let's go back a little bit. 1817, Moses Austin started this whole discussion about Fort Bend County. 1821, Stephen F. Austin invited 300 families from North, and you know that many of you cannot be part of that 300 families because of your color, and that include me too. And then, of course, when I heard somebody mentioning about the first county judge of Asian descent. Very honored to stand in front of you today to say hello to you. And when I got elected, I knew that was not an accident. It was a reason behind I got elected. And that's why I said from day one, we believe in human dignity. We are going to celebrate people. We are going to celebrate culture. Today, you will go see that in Fort Bend County Courthouse. You will see the first sheriff and also the senator from this county during Reconstruction. And you will also see Commissioner Taylor. And need to remember that man. He was the first county commissioner, and he was kicked out of office, ran to Wharton County in of course, you all know that Jaybird Woodpecker War in 1889, and ran to Wharton County and lived the rest of his life in that county because he was asked to get out of this county. And then rest of his life, he lived there. And of course, after that, you know what happened? We didn't talk about creating a white-only primary in Fort Bend County. If it wasn't for Willie Melton, if it wasn't for Arizona Fleming, we wouldn't be sitting here. They took that case to Supreme Court and got a judgment in favor of demolishing, and Supreme Court said it is unconstitutional to have a race-based primary. And otherwise, I wouldn't be standing here. and many of you wouldn't be standing here. And thanks, and I know that I'm standing on so many people's shoulder, standing on so many people, what they built, and I will never forget that. And one more thing I just wanted to mention here is, I remember traveling, I like history and I like to travel. We taking our children to Savannah, Georgia, visiting that city. And I don't know how many of you know the history. That's where African Americans were brought, I should say, and stationed and sold from there. And today there are some offices exist there because the people were sold, their families were sold separately. And today there are some offices there. You could go back and search your ancestors and things of that nature. I was visiting that place with my little girl, and she was so emotional about that because she's not African American, but thinking about, I have 3 children, me and my wife, and I told her, baby, think about, me, mommy, and you all 3 got sold to 5 different people intentionally so that you are not united, unified as a family. And so I just wanted to say, I salute you. And we are actually enjoying, people like me, a brown guy like me, enjoying the fruits of sacrifices you all went through. And I never forget that. And we should never forget that. And I just wanted to thank this afternoon for an amazing program put together by Judge Watson. And these children always make me proud and happy, and also give me hope for our future. Give me hope for our future. And thank you, because you didn't think all this stuff in 2018 when many of us got elected. Things are going to change. Today we celebrate African American History Month in Fort Bend County Judge's Office. We celebrate Juneteenth event. We celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. We celebrate Muslim Ramadan and things of that nature. We celebrate Diwali. We celebrate people. That people make Fort Bend County what it is, irrespective of the color, who you are and what you are and your age or sex. The people make Fort Bend County. And thank you once again for this event. Unbelievable.
Just a reception? Okay. All right. I didn't know I was going to speak. The reception? Yes, we have a small reception. We have some lunches, and the break room is what we call it in the Justice Center. And I have cake, coffee, tea in my courtroom, County Court at Law Number 5, which is right courtroom 1B, in the courtroom right around the corner. So you're welcome. So you're welcome to come to both. Thank you.